Start recording.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what we were discussing in our last class is how to write a C++ class, or you can say it's a C++ structure, and we have considered the example of writing a stack class, stack data structure. So just to summarize the observations that we made in our last class, so this is something that we don't want. So it's a typical C style, which is not using any object oriented so typical C style class, where I think this is visible. So you have got, sorry, so this one, so typical C style, where you have got all the function prototypes, and you have got a simple structure defining a stack, which includes all the related data that makes a stack. Okay, so the pointer, the top, and the size, and these are the methods which will be working. Now the main point to note is the structure is just having the member data which is related to the stack, but if it is C, there is no provision to include this, so this cannot be included here. So this is not possible. Okay, and then once these prototypes are there, we give the definitions. So these are the function definitions one by one. So they are all done outside. Like this. And if you have declared an instance of that, because these members are not a part of it, and you may be having, say, two stack objects or two stack variables, s1, s2. So if you would like to invoke any of these methods, I mean functions, to insert or delete or push or pop into the stack, because these are not part of the objects that you create, they are not members yet, there is no provision of having the membership in C, so you have to explicitly pass them. So the immediate thing that happens is, for init stack there is a default or I mean there is a mandatory parameter which takes the object or the variable on which it wants to work, right? So you see everywhere you have to write s1, s2, whatever. So that is one thing that we find. So the parameters method or function parameters are having a compulsory input, that is the object for the instance on which it need to work, right? It works. So this is what we found. It is always there. So what we found is, if I go for a C++ type structuring, then this limitation is overcome. So we can include all these methods which is related to stack inside. So that is what we found. But at the same time, we have to use here the access specifiers, which was also left blank. There was no access specifiers. There was no encapsulation of functions. So these are not possible. But here The access specifiers are there, and we encapsulate the functions which are now called methods. So both becomes members, and we clearly explicitly specify the private ones, the private data, the public data, the private methods, the public methods, like that, and we write the details of each method here. And this is where, say, so here we start the class definition continues, and here it ends. Okay, so the class definition in yellow, it starts here and ends here. So that was the point I was telling that. Okay, so if we do that now, if we have created an object s1, now because these methods or functions, now they are becoming a part of this stack class. So if I would like to invoke a particular method like init stack or push or pop, I can do it as if it's a member, as if I am accessing, say, if I write s1.n, I can also write s1.init stack, init push and pop. So if there are any of these public functions, I can invoke by referring those names using the dot operator, because they are also members. Okay, so as you can see, the parameter list becomes one less, because now earlier you see you are passing the s1 here explicitly. Now s1 invokes it. Okay, so that way it works. So in terms of the prototype, it looks a bit different. So that is the case. Now we'll see later that how exactly this s1. So here also you see, now those who are from the C++ experts, can you say that can you tell me how it is passed? So in the previous case, it was explicit. We have to do it and we have to specify two arguments here. But in this case, in object-oriented programming, this is not explicit, but this is implicit, and it happens. So actually, you see here there is one argument, but when I will discuss about that, you will find that when the compiler compiles it, it translates it to something where it will accept two arguments instead of one. So this is not a magic that init stack somehow understands the identity of S1 or S2. So that need to be explicit. So how it is done? Do you have any idea? Are you getting my question?
Sir, could you repeat your question, sir? Didn't really get it, sir.
Yes, your voice is breaking.
Sir, can you repeat the question once?
My question is, in the previous case, the members, or I mean the functions, are not a part of the structure definition, right? As we can see here. And because of that, if I would like to work on S1 or S2, I have to pass that particular object explicitly as the first argument or second argument, whatever, but you have to pass it explicitly, as you can see here. But here you can see how many arguments are required, just the value that you want to push or initialize on this. So the identity of S1 or S2, here it is not explicitly passed, right? So how the push pop these knows? Because in the storage, in the code segment, if you have declared, say, this is S1, now I've got a stack S2 S3 also. So S2 S3 S1, they will all be using the same method, right? I mean the method code is the same, the method object code is the same for all. So in the code segment, do you expect that there will be separate copies of S1 S2 S3 stored? If it is a code segment, So the code segment will hold, say, the binary of main function main, then the binary of function, say, init stack, then the binary of function push, then pop, like then display. Okay. Now here you have stack segment where you are having space for s1, s2, s3, because they are all, say, these are all local. S1, this is for s2, this is for, so this is for s1, this is for this is for s2 of s2. Are you getting the, is that fine up to this? Fine to this? Is that okay? Hello?
So your voice is breaking.
My voice is
Yes,
breaking.
Yes, sir.
Institute line is not working. Just wait for a while. Huh? No. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Am I audible?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
ওটা এখানে রেখে দে কিন্তু ওটাই দে, কিন্তু আমাকে আর ক্লাসে আছি একদম যেন আর কথা না বলতে হয়। Okay. So have you got this figure? So what I meant is, for each of these methods, it gets stored in the code segments, right? But for each of the instances that I've created, s1, s2, s3, they are stored space from the stack segment because they are local objects, right? And we know that how much size they will require, because they will be requiring size corresponding to this part. Is that okay? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So no matter how many instances you create, they will be allocated either in the stack segment or in the data segment, or maybe if it is dynamically allocated from the heap segment. But the code segment contains just one copy of each method corresponding to each class, right? So if I would like to say operate, if I would like to say that I would like to invoke init stack corresponding to, or this object s1 wants to invoke, so I write s1 dot init stack. So s1 dot init stack, fine, but this init stack, this particular method, it need to know somehow that s1 has actually invoked it. So in some sense, this init stack should accept in some form the identity of who is invoking it. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Because that is just like a common code that will be used by all instances that you create corresponding to that class. So when you invoke that class, when the control comes here inside this init stack, so if it does not know, so it must know that, so which particular object I should be initializing, s1, s2, or s3. Or if you call push, so which object I will be pushing, I mean corresponding to which object, s1, s2, or s3. So this push, this init stack, this pop, they must take this object's identity also. But are we passing it here explicitly? Is the question
No,
clear
sir.
or?
Yes, sir.
So the thing is, although it is not apparent, this is not explicit, but this happens implicitly. So can you tell me how it is done?
Sir, I think that this pointer gets passed
Yes,
implicitly.
yes, yeah, that's the case, right? So we'll talk about it later on. So just know that. Okay, so let's not complicate things right now. Somebody knows the answer, so you will also know the answer. Those who don't know, so that's a very simple thing. But yeah, he could answer. That is good. So you must understand that this is not done by magic. So like init stack, the same code works for this without, as you can see, without explicitly passing this. This is not happening. So we'll later on, maybe in the next class, we'll see that how it is actually done. Okay, for right now, let us be happy with this one. So if I would like to invoke s2 dot push, I can call this. So this way it will work. Okay. So everything was fine, and definitely this was a better design than this one, which was completely scattered. All the like the cohesion of the data and function and everything is not there. But this is good. But although this is good, as you can see, this blue one. So you start reading the class definition here, and it goes on like this, and it ends up after 70 lines. Okay, so almost like 60 lines it spans. And typically real say real problem, the class definitions might span several thousands or hundreds of lines also, because there's a bunch of methods and each method might span several lines and all this. So then if you start reading a class definition, it will go on doing like this. So the better way to write it, so design is fine, but better way to write it so that it's more readable is this one. So this was the previous case, it was this one. So what we did here, we just ended up the class definition here itself. We started here and here we ended. So this is the end of class. This is start of the class. This is the end of the class definition. Okay. So here, after that, after we have done that, we write the individual methods. So within this, what we do, we specify all the private data members, we specify all the public data members, all the private methods, all the public methods, and we just mention the prototypes here. Just that's all. So the prototypes are mentioned. So if you start within few lines, you know what is the interface of this particular class. I mean, interface means what interface it. So this is what the interface is. So this is an interface to the outside world, right? Because this is public. So through this public interface only, anybody who is using my code will be able to use the class. Okay. So this is, you can say, it's an interface. So how the interface looks like, you know. Now, if you want to know the details of what it is doing, then you can read through this one to know the details of each of the implementation of the methods. But because you are writing the methods or defining the methods outside like this, each and every method, so you have to mention that whose is empty it is. So you have to resolve that is empty. This is a part of stack class. This display is a part of stack class, because you might have defined another display in the matrix class also. This might also happen in the same code. You are writing a stack class, also a matrix class, and there is no harm if you use the same display, because display is a very readable and quite obvious function to display matrix. But here it displays stack, there is displays matrix. So if you write simple display, the compiler will get confused which display method, matrix or structures you would like to define. So that's why this scope resolution here again is used, and you have to write. Earlier it was just this one and nothing is written, means it is a global scope. Now I say that, so when I write this stack, this means this function, this is a function belonging to the stack class in the scope of the stack class. So everywhere we write here with the scope resolution. So I'm spending a bit of time because now from now onwards you are trying to switch from a different syntactic paradigm. I mean, for the pure C designers. Okay, so I would expect everybody of you to follow this layout. Don't write everything there like this. I'll deduct marks otherwise. So it's a good practice that you should write it and you should organize it private public like that, so it is easy to follow also. And the rest of the case is all the same. I mean, there is no more discussion required here. Okay, so the suggestion is use scope resolution operator. Sorry, scope resolution operator to define the methods outside the class definition to make it readable. Okay, so this part is fine. So let us now switch to the coding part. Where is that? Okay, so can you see this code? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we'll now start making few changes here. So this was the last code that we have shown. We have discussed in the slides also. This is what we stick to. We'll write the complete definition of the stack with the interface. So this is basically the through this. So this is basically the public interface. For the users who are using your class definition, and here the details are there. Now the point is, you see, we are having the init stack and all this, and maybe we would like to call here s1 dot what I mentioned to delete, to remove the stack, it's clear stack. Sorry. So if I add some prompts here, that will be good. So let us write here that out constructing, or I mean initializing stack, initializing the stack object, and here I would write in the clear stack, so destroying the stack object, or I mean deallocating, whatever you say. Because we have used some while construction, we have used some dynamic allocation here, so that need to be undone. First thing is, every class definition, whatever you write, another recommendation is, whenever you find that when you are constructing the object, somewhere you have used dynamic allocation, so you should always write reverse of it, equivalent to say something equivalent to delete or deconstruct or whatever, destroy, initializer and destruction of that. So if I run this code, stack class, okay. So have you found the comments here? So display stack is here, and here it is destroying the stack object. So this corresponds to these two. Okay, apart from this, so this is fine. Now we can make it so here the point is in C++, because you see whenever you are trying to create an object, the construction of the object is obvious, so without construction you cannot do it. And because if you have some allocation, you have to deallocate. So these are obvious things, and to make the obvious things easier to handle, C++ compiler provided some additional facility. And the magic is here, if I write here instead of init stack, if I write here just stack, and here, so the init stack name, if I just change it to stack, so what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to provide a method name same as that a class name, right? And if I write here tilde stack, got the changes what we made?
Yes, sir.
Hello. So the only thing is the obvious things, because the construction and destruction is obvious. You have to construct the object and you have to probably destroy it also properly. So those obvious things we can make it uh, more easily. So what I do, if I change the name, instead of init stack, if I write here stack, and instead of say delete stack or clear stack, if I write here tilde stack, so tilde stack means it is for it is equivalent to the destruction. And here if I write, this is basically the initialization of construction. What changes I need to make? So I have to make the changes here. So instead of this, I write here stack, and let us assume that I remove this one, and here I remove this one, the return type. Okay, and here I write. So this is the whole name. So the name, so to differentiate, so stack is for creation construction and tilde stack is for destruction. So if we do this, then therefore definitely these two will not work. So init stack will not work and clear stack will not work, because we have just removed it with some different names. Now if I simply, while I am trying to allocate space for S1 object S1, if I write here 2, have you got the output? So the same prompts appear quite magically. Can you see the difference? I'm asking to C coders. Can you see the difference? So do I explicitly call this method, strange method, which name is same as the class name, the stack? Do I call it anywhere here in the main? Do I call it anywhere?
No, sir.
But you see, even if I have not called it, but it displays this, so this gets invoked and it says that initializing stack object. You see, here it shows initializing stack object. And you can write here that to distinguish initializing stack object, you can specify the size also. So what size? This is X. Okay. And destroying also, when you write here X, sorry, yeah, X is there. So if I write this, you can, okay, what was this? Oh, there is no X here. What was the value of X? It was, what is the value of X? What is the value of this? What is the size of this stack? max size, the variable size, right? Because this is part of it. Hello. So
Yes,
I
sir.
display here the value of the size. So I compile it and see. Can you see this? So the strange thing is, even though I don't invoke a particular method, it gets invoked automatically. So this automatic invocation is because that you have put a very special name to it, which matches with the class name itself. And the regarding destruction also, if you write tilde, so whenever the control goes out of the scope, so anything that got created, as we are just repeatedly telling that if you create something within the parentheses, so whenever the control comes out of the parentheses in C++, that means you are getting out of the scope. You can create a scope by creating a pair of parentheses. So if you go out of the scope, so anything that got allocated locally in the stack, if it is a local allocation, that will be deallocated. That will be simply thrown out. So that is happening here, as you can see here. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So can you tell me, if I write here, s2 to say 4, what is going to happen? How many times the initialization of the that initialize and the destruction will appear if I compile and run? How many times it will appear? Hello? How many
So
objects I am
twice,
creating?
two.
Yes,
Two.
because you see how many objects I am creating? Two objects I am creating, s1 and s2. And what are the initial values that have passed? Here it is 2, here it is 4. Why? Because this means, because of the strange naming convention, whenever you try to create an object, it must invoke some method which knows how to create it, right? So this is this object. So this knows how to create it. So it's basically, because it creates or constructs, we can call it as a constructor, right? Method. It's a special method which is a constructor method, and this is a special method which is called as a destructor method. Is that okay? So because of this, two local objects are created. So whenever the control comes out of this, automatically both of these will be constructed as well as deconstructed, I mean destroyed. So how many times the stack method will appear? The constructor will invoke twice. How many times the destructor? Twice. So if you compile it and run it, we would expect 2 times, you see. So initializing stack object 2, initializing stack object 4, and then, so why it is just reversed? Why this is 2, this is 4, and this is 4, and so why 2 and 4 and then 4 and 2 while destruction? What is the logic behind this? Why it is not destroying 2 and then destroying 4? Hello? Got my question?
So can you repeat the question?
Sir.
First thing is, if I create two objects, and if I have got a special method called constructor and a special method called destructor, as we have found, so how many times both of them will be invoked if I have created two local objects, as in this case? It will be 2. Answer is 2, right? Now I am creating what? I am creating here the object s1 first and then s1 s2 next. So that's why these 2 appears. You see, object s1 with initialization value 2, s2 with initialization value 4. But when it gets destroyed, it is just done in the reverse order. Why? What the question?
Yeah, sir, I understood the question, but I don't know the answer.
Anybody else who can answer? Apply your intuition. There is not a big deal here. where these objects are stored when you are requesting allocation for this?
Sir, in the stack.
In the stack. So
Stack.
when you are
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
removing things, so what do you think? So who first created in the stack?
Two,
S1,
sir.
S.
and then I mean 2 means the stack with value 2,
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
then
Yes,
the
sir.
stack with value 4. So when you are popping out, so who will be popped out first? One that is created last is LIFO. Stack is a LIFO strategy, right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that's why. So this also comes with a proof that okay, these are actually stored in the these local objects are actually stored in the stack segment, and that's why they are when they are destroyed in the reverse order in which they have been created. Got the point?
Yes, sir.
So from now onwards, maybe we would like to, because we know that these are constructing and destructing, and they are done automatically. You don't have to call it explicitly, and this is some nice thing that the compiler provides you. And this whenever the user uses it, the user says that okay, I just declare it, and declaration comes with construction. So it's not just storage allocation. Earlier it was, what was the basic difference with the previous code? The previous code, whenever I write stack s1, it basically allocates space in the stack segment, but the actual initialization need to be invoked through this init stack function or method. Now the whole thing is done automatically. I mean, both construction means it is basically, you can say, constructing. So instead of initializing, you can say construction of the stack object. Okay, and this one you can say it's a destruction of the stack object, destroying the stack object. Is that fine? And they are indeed, they are called, the term that is used is, they are the constructor and the destructor method. Okay. So is that fine till this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let us come to
So
the
when is the,
yes. Huh?
can you repeat once? So when is the destructor called?
As I mentioned, whenever the scope goes out, the control goes. What is the scope here? The scope is this. This is a scope, right? Because I have the starting brace and the ending parenthesis. Starting parenthesis, ending parenthesis. So you have created a scope here. So here you have created, but whenever the control is about to come out, I mean, automatically the destructor gets invoked, because you have mentioned that how to destroy that particular object. So it will be invoked.
Thank
Okay,
you,
to
sir.
make it clear, let us create one more scope. So this is a nested scope, right? It's a nested scope. Do you agree? Hello? Is that fine? This is a nested scope.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
if I create here S3, another stack object with say size say 3 here. Now what do you think? What do you expect? So how many constructors and how many times destructors will be called? First of all,
3.
So thrice.
3 times, 3 times. Now when okay, so if I would have done it here, if I would have done it here after displaying S1, if I do it. So now what do you think? So in which order they will be called? First is constructing with 2, constructing with 4, right? What will be the next? What will be the next? Can you tell me the sequence of output? Constructor, then push, there will be no outputs.
Push.
Display, there will be some display. Next what?
So then the constructor and then destructor for S3.
Yes, and then comes push, there is nothing, then comes a popping out of the elements, right?
Yeah.
So that will clear the doubt that when and how the destructors are getting invoked, right? And you see that is happening. So the first 2 objects are created, and then displaying the stack, this is also done. And after that, the in the nested scope, the object with value 3 got created and destroyed also. Why it gets destroyed? Because whenever the
Because
control is about to come out from this, it need to be destroyed, right? There is no longer any use of this object. It was there in the, so it was sitting in the top of S1 and S2, but now its scope is off. It goes out of the scope. The scope gets removed. So whenever you have passed out after getting your degree, so many of the things that has been allocated to you, your room and your many other entries will be removed completely. It is something like that. Okay. So this gets removed, and then this push and then this cout pop. So these are the values. Okay, stack overflow and all this, and then the destruction of 4 and 2. Is that fine?
yes, sir.
So
Yes,
this
sir.
construction and destruction, these two, you see, it appears. So it is not. It's not like this ST will be destroyed at the end, because its scope is over at this moment itself. So this shows that whenever it goes out of the scope, it will be destroyed. That's all. Fine.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so can we do something like this?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
if I would like to do something like this, say for example, okay, make it simple. Just have one of them, and here I would like to allocate dynamically a stack. That means what? So till now, S1, S2, S3 were allocated space from the stack segment. Now, if I would like to allocate a stack object from the heap, what should I write? How to get the allocation from the heap?
So
The
new.
stack S1 equal to
New,
S3 equal to new stack.
new
So
stack.
using the
Okay, new stack. So just one element, right? New stack, and then here we write what so the space allocated in the heap, the base address should be stored in some pointer. What should be the type of the pointer? P. It should
Stack
be a
type.
pointer to stack, right? Pointer to stack. Is that okay? Will it work if I simply write this?
yes, sir.
Will it work? Hello,
Yes, sir.
tell me. I mean, nobody else are answering, so is this okay?
I think it
Sir,
should
I
work.
don't think so, because
Yes,
we need to call the constructor as well, sir.
we have to call the constructor. No, so then the magic goes off. The magic is still there.
Okay, sir.
So how to, so but syntactically is it correct? Are you giving enough information to construct?
So I think we need a parenthesis after
Uh,
the stack, sir.
Huh? Parenthesis.
Here we
Wait,
need a
what type of
parenthesis.
parenthesis?
So
This
first,
one.
yes, sir.
But is that enough? While
Sir,
it
you need to
constructs,
pass a parameter,
what
sir.
it requires?
As a
Yes,
parameter, pass the
without
parameter.
parameters it cannot do that, right? Because
Yes, sir.
it says that you need to have, because a constructor, it says that I need some value. Without that, I cannot do it, right?
Yes, sir.
So if I simply write this, say for by mistake also, if I do this, then see what happens. So here, if I, you see what it says, this stack is a constructor, it knows, so it requires an integer, but you say that you are constructing a method, I mean you are constructing without passing anything here. You are trying to write something like this, so it gets confused. What I need to do here, I can explicitly write here, say it is 3. Now will it work?
Yes,
This
sir.
means I'm trying to allocate a stack object, a single stack object with this initial value 3. It just requires one integer value as initialization, and P will be pointing to it. P is in the stack segment and this is in the heap segment. P is pointing to that space. Is that okay? Hello?
yes.
So now can you tell me that what will be the output? Can you verify the output? So constructing, so because the constructor is invoked here, it's apparent, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
But what is missing?
So the destructor part.
The destructor is not there. Why?
Because we are not deallocating the pointer.
Not only deallocating, I mean the point is here is this is not, so even if it goes out of the scope, the object is residing where? In the heap.
Yes, sir.
So in the heap you have created something, even if it goes out of, so whenever you are here, can you access the space pointed by P from here? Can you
No,
access the
sir.
space?
No, sir.
Hmm?
No, sir.
Because
No,
it goes
sir.
out of, but even though it is it goes out of the scope, you cannot simply use it or access it or even remove it also. This is also not possible. So saw the basic problem here. So if it is a static allocation from the stack, it will be thrown out like any other integer values also. I mean integer variable, float variable. So whenever it gets thrown out, the destructor is called. But here the destructor is not called because we are not explicitly. So it is not. Even though it goes out of the scope, the lifetime it remains in the heap and remains as a garbage. Okay. So how to take care of it we'll see later on. So right now you can explicitly write that part. So got this point, the static allocation and dynamic allocation. So if I would like to invoke, say if I would like to push something in this dynamically allocated stack, then what should I do? If I want to push in S1, so I write S1 dot push S1 dot pop and all this. So if I would like to push something in this particular stack, how to access it?
Sir, using the pointer P.
First of all, I would like dot, then push, right? Dot push, and what I would like to push, maybe it's a value 10 here. That's all. But how to specify the stack here? This particular stack. How to reach to that stack? I have the pointer itself. How should I reach it? Through P. How can I reach to that object? P is a pointer. Tell me quickly. Hello.
Sir, P followed by a dash and arrow.
Let us try this one first. Will it work?
Yes, sir.
Will it work? This works, right? I've not displayed it. If you like to display, it will display. So if I would like to display, what I do? Asterisk P dot display. Just to make sure that it actually worked. Is that fine? It has constructed that object, but this object, what is the difference between this object and this object? This first object is in the stack segment, but the second object is in the heap segment. Got my point? So instead of this, what I could have written? P arrow this, because we have already mentioned that it's a more compact notation, right? So let's see if it works. Fine, the same thing works. Hello?
Yes, sir.
So from now onwards, we will not be using this notation. Rather, we'll be using this arrow notation. So let us have both in the first case, but later on we will just use one particular type. So this is fine. Let us see something like this. So if I write, so if I would like to allocate a stack, say S2, an array of stacks, what should I write? Array of two stacks, or array of, say, yeah, array of two stacks. What should I write here? Static allocation.
Sir, S2 and then square brackets 2.
Right? So this is also static allocation of a single stack object. And what is this? Static allocation of what is this? Static allocation of uh, an array of stack array of stack objects, array of two stack objects, right? So what do you expect? How many constructors and destructors will be? How many times constructors will be invoked?
2.
No,
Three
in
times.
total. In total. Yeah. Don't take so much of time.
Four.
These are simple
So
questions.
4 times.
4 times, right? Because one for the static S1, one for this array of these two, so thrice here, and this is for the dynamic one, right? And how many times the destructors will be invoked?
3 times.
3 times,
3.
because this, in this case we fail to get the destructor invoked explicitly. So let's see. Okay, what happened? Okay, so what's the problem? Can you feel the problem? Can you see what the problem is? It's not
Sir,
working.
size.
Size. How should I? How can I specify the size here? Is there any way to specify it? Got it? The way we initialize the arrays, this is also something like this, because it requires how many arguments? One argument each for each object. So this 4 goes for creating the first object, and the 7 goes for creating the second object, right? Let's see. Sorry. Fine. Now you see constructing stack object 2 with size 2, with size 4, with size 7, and each of them gets destroyed in the reverse order: 7, 4, and 2. In the meanwhile, in between, this stack object, dynamically allocating object, got allocated. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Any query till this point?
Sir, if that constructor needed two arguments, for example, then how
I am
would we
coming.
have done?
I am
Okay.
coming to it.
Okay, sir.
So is that fine? Up to this part?
Yes, sir.
So what we discussed is how to write a stack class. Now the thing is, the first trick that I try is, so do you think if I change, instead of class, if I just write struct, will it work? Will it work if I just
No,
change
sir.
the Will it work? Hello?
No, sir.
Yes or no?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
Works. So still cannot believe, even though I repeatedly told you that structures and classes in C++ are just synonymous. Yes, and they have just used a different keyword called class, which is sounds more like object oriented, rather than the structure, which is more of a procedure type. So a structure in purest sense, it is not able to encapsulate methods. So that's why it is a structure of this. But in C++, it's basically synonymous. Believed it? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
so that's what Strauss-Tube did it, because he wrote C++, so something that is better, or I mean enhancement of C. So he preserved everything that was in C. So the same codes if you write, so you have to just save it as CPP, that's all. But the same syntax would have worked in C++ also. The same syntax, the same C codes, if you write in a C++ compiler, if you run it, it will work. And because of this, but you know that, I mean, if you are a object oriented designer, you should know that, okay, these structures are not actually structures. They are having much more capabilities and more like a class, because you can now use access specifiers and all this. But still, if you would like to use the keyword struct just to see that whether it works, it works. So now the thing is, so we know that things can be overloaded, right? I mean, we can overload methods, or we can overload functions, and function overloading is possible. So so if that is the case, now somebody says that if I would like to have a construction, so this is while you are constructing, you just specify the size of the stack, right? That's all. But you might be also in some cases, maybe as a demo here, if I would like to construct an object where I would be specifying not only the size but also the first element and the size. Got my question? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So let us see how. So in presence of this one, so it's basically it's constructor one, constructor first way of constructing. Let us try to think of alternative ways of constructing, where so it's constructor 2, and here I would say int x and int y. What is the significance of y? So x is the size and y is the maybe the the value, the initial value. Okay. So once we have included that, so I would like to have, so maybe the user is complaining that, okay, I have this sort of requirement also, so why don't you allow me to construct it in that way also? Why don't you have more flexible ways of constructing? So the thing is, you just add it as per the user demands. So he just says, why don't you have a better interface, I mean more generic interface. So if it is so you have to just write it here. So you come here and then you write this one, tag the scope resolution with this definition, and then write the details here, right? So it's constructor 1 and the constructor method 2. What do we need to write? So that everything is same. So constructor 1, and you say here constructor 2. Right? So everything is same. So the only thing is, before you leave, maybe you write a plus plus top with the value v, right? Is that okay? And n plus plus. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now let's see that if this works. So I would like to create object stack say S3. Can I write here S3? I can do that. Okay, so let it be again 3 stacks where I would like to initialize. So in case of 2-dimensional, so what do you think? So each stack will require 2. So if I write here something like this, 2 comma 20, and then 5 comma 89. What does it interpret? What may be the interpretation? Static allocation of an array of three stack objects. So I have got one more. So maybe 3 comma 5. Static allocation of an array of 3 stack objects with initial value, with initial element, with the first element given. Is that okay? Let's see if it works. Is that what fine? Now this works. Okay. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
So if I just to make sure that they have really inserted the first element here, if I just write display, so what should I write here? So how to display a particular, maybe the second one?
S3 of 1
How should I display here? S3
of 1.
S3 which one? 1. S3 1 dot display. Fine. What do you
yes,
expect?
sir.
What will be the content of the stack displayed here?
20.
Size 5 and
Hmm? How much?
size 5 and first element 89.
89. So it should be, size is not displayed. So here, got it? So this 89, the first element, trivial element is 89. Is that okay? Hello. So if I would like to dynamically allocate such things, then what should I do? That also is possible, right? So if I write here stack, so if I write here 3,7, then which constructor would be invoked? What do you think? Earlier you see constructor 1 was invoked dynamically, right? Here. But if I write this, so which piece of constructor will be invoked? Because now you have, while initializing, you pass 2 arguments. So probably that means, because the user knows that, I mean, you have provided facility to the user, multiple facilities to create multiple ways to construct. So if you write 3,7, which constructor should be invoked?
2.
Constructor 2.
Constructor 2. And this is what happens, right? Constructor 2 got invoked. Fine. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the last point is, if I would like to do something like this, stack q, say for example, equals, if I would like to allocate a stack of, I mean, uh, an array of stacks, an array of stack objects dynamically, then what should I do? Maybe 4 objects. Then what should I do? Hello? Got my point?
Yes, sir.
Will it work?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Why it will not work?
Sir, you need to pass the
Size.
arguments, sir.
No, size or whatever, neither you are passing one value or even 2 values, nothing you are passing. So have you provided the means of construction without any arguments?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
But without this, is it possible dynamic allocation of an array? Because here you cannot really specify. So you can specify either the initial values, or you can specify how many objects you want to do there, right? So this is not possible. Okay. So to make it possible, what you have to do? So to make this possible, so the thing is, you have mentioned how to construct constructor type 1, constructor type 2, but to make it possible, you have to have a constructor which can construct without any initial values. So what do you need to do? Where you need to make the changes? Hello? Got my question?
Sir, we need to make a
So
new
in the class,
constructor
you have to make
in the
another
class.
constructor.
So the thing is, we have to write one more constructor, right? We have to write one more constructor. What is that? Here. So you can write, so maybe one constructor, maybe constructor 0 you can call it. Okay. So it does not accept anything. So it's, you can call it as constructor 0, and it can construct like this. If nothing is given, then what should you do? So there is no x here. So this is, so now you say, but you should fix the size, right? So if nothing is mentioned, so you should make it 10, right? So the default, if nothing is mentioned, it will be 10. So you say that it is 10, or you can write here intx a default value, default size value, and make it x. Is that fine? Got it?
Yes, sir.
So you can see here there are how many constructors are there with the same name. So with the name stack, the same name as this. So there are 3 copies. This one, this one, this one. But these are overloaded because it accepts no arguments. It accepts 1 integer. It accepts 3 integers. So these are overloaded constructors. So why you are doing this? So user is free to do anything. Even if it doesn't pass anything, it will work. 1 argument, it will work. If it wants to pass with the initial element value, that also it will work. So if I try this now, works, right? Hello, but you see, so it constructed with, so whenever you are constructing, now how many I have asked for construction? 4 of them, right? So after calling constructor 2 with two inputs, then it calls 4 times the constructor 0 with no arguments. And what is the initial value? Initial value was garbage, so that's why it is showing some garbage. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So this is a garbage that is getting created. Okay, so I have made one mistake, that is here is value of x. So the value of x should be 10 here, right? The default value should be 10. You have to set the default value. So if we set it, it will be 10 always. 10, 10, 10 like this. Is that fine? Hello? Is that okay? So now
Yes,
let me
sir.
sum it up. So it is almost done. Let me sum it up. So as you say that I can write multiple constructors, multiple ways to construct an object. Can we have multiple ways to destroy an object?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right? Why it is not possible? Why not possible?
Sir, during instruction, we cannot give a parameter to a destructor like.
So I mean you cannot give, that you learned that you cannot give, but why the provision has not been given by Strauss-True? So that is you believe that okay, I cannot do that, I know that it is not done, but what is the philosophy behind that? Maybe that even human beings, when we are when it's time to die, so it's better you should not choose options that you have to die, you have to die, that's all. So there's no point of uh, how you choose to die, so like that. So if you have object say parameters, then you can differentiate, you can have multiple ways to, so that is not, so during construction you can have variations, but when you are getting destroyed, maybe philosophically it was like that, so there is no other option, you just, there is one and only one way to destroy. So that is how it was designed, and that was basically followed throughout, maybe in other languages also. Okay, so that's why you cannot have a overloaded destructor, as you can see here in the prototype list. So you see whatever I make changes, so if you just look at a glance, if you look into this, you can know that what is the interface given to you, right? So when we see the your class definition, I can just be sure of it, and I'll be just interested on this part, because the rest of it is basically hidden from me. So except this part and except this n, the user of say you wrote it and I am the user of your, I am the consumer of your code, so I am not interested uh, about rest of the things, because that is enough for me. Okay, and I know that there are multiple ways to construct, but there is a single way to destroy. So there is a single destructor method. and there is something different from this one. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me complete this part. So just I'll just summarize this. I've not been able to jot it down in the slides. So what I found is this construct. So this was meant for constructor. Okay. So this constructor, it gets automatically invoked when a instance of a variable or object is created. The name is same as the structure or the class name. It must be declared as public. Now, can you make a constructor or destructor private?
No, sir.
Can make
Because
the object
because you will be constructing from outside, because within the class itself you cannot construct a destroy. So the thing is, this is also something very important. So constructors destructors must be declared as public. This is destructor and these are constructor. So here so constructors destructors must be public. Okay, and then
So
its name
if
as
we
same. Hmm?
so
Yes.
if we declare a constructor or destructor as private, will it give an error message?
See, it will definitely be error message, because what is the purpose of it? What is the very purpose of making it? So if you just, how to make it? So don't believe in things. In coding, you just try and see that it is not working. Although you can intuitively find out, you see. So the volume of errors.
Yes, sir.
So it's not, because it's not only there you made the mistake. So wherever you are trying to call it, the compiler tries to compile and find out there is a problem. So what it interprets is so those are not accessible. So all the construction fails whenever you try to construct it. Okay. Fine.
Yes,
So
sir.
so now it says that it cannot any the construction. So during construction, do you want to return some values? Is this necessary?
No, sir.
Because you are not
No,
processing
sir.
anything. It's basically declaration of the space either in the stack or in the heap, and just putting initial values. That's all. That is the purpose of it. So you are not supposed to return anything, and it's not required. And that is not mandatory also, if even if you try to overload, because overloading is based on the input arguments, not the return type of the output argument. So that is fine with the basic notion of overloading. So you cannot return any values, and here in the destructor neither you can accept nor you can return. So cannot return and cannot accept also, or accept, right? And it allows and what is the purpose of constructors? Now you can do anything, you can even push something in the constructor also, but that is not the purpose. The purpose is to allocate space and to set the initial values to the data members. Set initial values to the data members. And what is the purpose of the destructor? It is so definitely no overloading is possible, because return type and I mean it cannot return, and more of it cannot input accept input arguments. And if you cannot provide input arguments, you cannot differentiate and you cannot overload. So that's why destructors cannot be overloaded, but constructors can be overloaded. And the sole purpose is to deallocate the space allocated by the constructors and reset the default values. So that's the purpose. But if you do something else, it is up to you, but that is not the purpose, right? And another thing is, both of these is automatically get invoked, and this also automatically gets invoked, and the name is with this tilde sign and the class name. Okay, so this much for this class. I've got few things. Okay, I'll continue in the next class, otherwise it will be too much. Any question? Any question? See, one point is I'll publish the next assignment today only, but the point is these things that I have shown you without trying this. So I would ask you to try this also of your own. So write uh, first a C++ structure stack, or maybe you can try with the Q. Do the same thing with Q. Do it all in the within the same class definition. Then you try to put it outside within the scope definition. So do the same practice, so that you really know each and every step. Try to create static objects. Try to create an array of static objects. Try to create a pointer to that. Create a within a scope. Then try to overload the constructors gradually and all this. So have a feel of it. Otherwise, the way that you are doing things, like taking almost a week time to submit assignments, so this will not happen. So try to believe yourself, and if you have got some other questions also, you can ask me. I mean, maybe in the next class you'll find something tricky, or you expected something but is not happening, you can ask me. So these are the very basic things regarding the syntax and regarding the basic understanding of it. So in the next class I'll be talking about default arguments. I'll be talking about these pointers and all this, and also I'll be trying to see that how can we pass object references and object pointers to other functions. So those will be the topic, and after that, so there will be two more classes required to have the basics of this. There will be one more class where we will talk about static objects, constant objects, static method, static member functions, static member data, and what is the use of it. I think some of you know the use of it, but let me see how can you answer. I mean, if you know the answers or not. Okay, we'll take one example that will show it. So once this part is done, so now you will be able to write like pure C++ codes with classes and all this. You'll be able to write. Okay, so here let me just a point. I just show you the assignments once, and I'll be assignment set. Can you see this? Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So the stack class I've already written. So you have to write the Q class. You can write it of your own. Q also use a circular queue using an array. Don't use linked list till I explain it. Matrix you can write it. So put all those add mat, display mat and all this. So I'll publish it, but just to have an idea of it, and the linear linked list. So this will be something that I'll discuss after discussing that those features. Okay, we will take one more class, and this will be interesting. How you organize a linked list. Let me see how what kind of design you come up, and what I write, what type of design I write. So now you have known the features. Now the thing is how you organize this and all this. So how you write the class, what things you make public and what things you make private, all these details. Any more questions? Otherwise I'll leave.
So how much time will we get for the assignment?
This assignment it will be by the coming Monday, because there are 3-4 assignments. It's not a big deal, and linked list also I'll write, but you have to write it, type it, and then see.
Sir,
This is for
actually, we have
warming up.
CA1 from Monday onwards, sir. So it would, so we'll not
Yes,
get.
sir.
So actually,
So I understand that you have got the this class test, na?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it coming Friday, as I mentioned. So this stack I have written, the linked list also I'll write. The queue and the matrix you have partly written. So you just have to include them. I think Friday will be good enough. Is that okay, or may I make it next Sunday?
Sir, Sunday
next
would be
Sunday,
great.
so Sunday would
Huh?
be perfect, sir. So Sunday would be perfect, sir, because we could,
Yes, sir.
because the exams end on Friday.
Okay, okay, I'll make it coming Sunday. Means next to next Sunday.
Sir, thank you so much.
So this will be a warming up, and the next assignment, I mean the fourth assignment will be something. So that will be the actual the assignments. These are all very trivial ones, just to get things running. Now after that, so the target will be to write graph class, like graphs, shortest path and all this. There will be some graphs where we'll find that popularity of a node using PageRank algorithm. So those will be the assignments. And then we'll be implementing hashing. If you note linked list, writing hashing is just like a few 30 lines of code. So we'll see that how the code reuse becomes very efficient, like hashing using chaining will be very simple. And if I give you the roll sheet of your class or maybe some other class 180, so you can create a hash table of that. So if I write a name, or maybe I write the roll number, you immediately from the hash table you retrieve the name of the student, or if you give the name you can get the. So instead of having a list, you maintain a hash table, and implementing hash table becomes extremely simple if you can implement a linked list. Okay, so that those things will do. So we'll keep on solving problems which is useful also. It's not just like you write a tree and then keep insert few integers and you'll be happy. So graphs, hashing, so I'll explain it in the class also. That is not a big deal. And then we'll be writing tree codes also, how we organize trees. And maybe after 3-4 assignments we'll be writing some useful tree structures like try for dictionary retrieval. So the dictionary is this Oxford dictionary, all this. So dictionary search is something very interesting. So you have got several thousands of alphabetical say keywords involving alphabet. So how you have a very efficient search on that. So that will be something that is interesting. Okay, so that will be done maybe after this class test. Any other question? And Ovijit will start taking the class. Ovijit will take class maybe from coming Monday. So he will take 2 classes and I will take 2 classes. Okay. And if you have got any queries from this part or maybe from the previous classes, I will be happy to get the questions, because through those answers, I mean, as you people learn from what we speak, but we also learn from if I get some new question, I mean, that helps me to learn things. So I would like to have that opportunity. So try to come up with questions. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Bye. Thank you.